ベリーストロンガー
Sifu is a knuckle sandwich. Ready with its punches and kicks, Sifu whirls you through its linear levels while seductively inviting you to beat up some bad guys. Moving room to room, you swim through tidal waves of goons in order to fight one of 5 big bad guys who killed your dad. Defeat the big bad 5 and you win. I think? Old Boy, Ip Man, Wheels on Meals, and even Ninja Hunter, Sifu's developer Slowclap pays referential homage to these cultural moments and spotlights an often overlooked aspect of culture. If you are getting on in life, Sifu might remind you of a little PS2 game called Jet Li Rise to Honor. However, the comparison only sits on this discussion's periphery because Sifu stands on its own. Sifu is confident and a big boy. It does not need a celebrity image to hold its hand in carving its own path. He can do it on his own, and that's saying something because this could easily have been Jackie Chan's Sifu, a spiritual successor to Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster for the PlayStation. Sifu is like a time machine, transporting us to a bygone era of the beat-em-up. Think Final Fight. Even more so, the combo system and difficulty situates itself closer to a character action game like God Hand. Now, I am going to say what everyone is thinking right now, and I understand the gravity of this description. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it must be said. Here it goes. Sifu is a Bruce Lee Quest of the Dragon-like. With all of this in mind, in my certified gamer opinion, the most accurate way to experience and view Sifu is as a fighting game. There's no need to chop and change descriptors like arcade beat 'em up, brawler, hack and slash, because to its core, Sifu is a fighting game. Fighting games are the cherished children of the fighting game community. I would know, because I really like them. So for me to call Sifu a fighting game may tilt the heads of FGCers all over the world. They might even issue a warrant to seize my fighting game community club card and get me killed. You're not going to witness Sifu at EVO, the ultimate fighting game tournament sponsored by Chipotle, even though Sifu is more Street Fighter than Street Fighter. Do not get it twisted. Fighting games can be more than your traditional round-based player versus player affair, and Sifu has succinctly opened this line of inquiry for the genre. By not calling Sifu a fighting game would not only be wrong, but it would serve as a huge injustice to Sifu and future fighting games. Sifu is a ticking time bomb. In the future, we will hear people say Sifu-like, and if we're not hearing it, we will definitely read it somewhere on the internet. You don't want to be on the wrong side of history, do you? Sifu requires conscious player action, bobbing in and out of attack and defense stances. Knowing when to rush down your opponent or guard against opposing pressure is key to progressing in your journey. Issuing attacks with each button press feels satisfying. Accompanied with slick defensive options makes this game's tactile controls addictive in the best way possible. Your hands will be glued to the controller. Moments of trial and error will be encountered while learning enemy patterns, but it never pulls the rug from under you. It plainly presents challenges, and it is up to you how to strategize your fighting approach. The stun gauge, super meter, command normals, combos, links, counter hits, and projectiles are all aspects that should be actively considered. No one room is exactly the same. Room geometry, enemy variety, weapons, and your own health and super resources are factors that keep the game fresh. Adapting to each situation is the name of the game. Analysing opportunities and threats will give you an edge in combat, but knowing what to do and doing it are two different things. This keeps the player engaged with the game's detail, asking you, how are you going to tackle this room of enemies? Letting your mind sit in the driver's seat while always providing a good execution skill challenge. As you play, you become wiser to the game systems. An understanding is forming. Beating the game is of prime importance. Players are incentivized to keep pressuring opponents to chip their structure meter. When full, you can deal a knockout attack. This is what you are striving for with every enemy. It is the carrot on a stick. You must get that carrot. To keep players on their toes, some enemies will prevent this from happening and become powered up. This introduces a deeper state of play when encountering bigger groups of enemies and changes the dynamic of a given fight. Do you want to risk an enemy getting powered up, or play it safe without the knockout? That is up to you. Whittling down enemies with your flashy KO animations does not feel samey, as your opponent's positioning in the environment contextually changes the animation. For example, against a wall, ledge, or when sprawled on the floor. As soon as you initiate the move, the camera snaps to emphasize the destruction. Everyone around you seems to be flabbergasted, frozen in time like they got stage fright, leaving the one poor soul getting absolutely destroyed. Some friends they are. It reminds me of when I pause and think of how I would fight every single person at my local supermarket. Here's what makes this mechanic great. While the moment gives you a cinematic breather, watching a cool animation in you absolutely destroying someone, it is not long after that you are in the fray again. This momentary pause, while realistically illogical, gives you enough time to survey the fight and plan in an instant and act. The game gives you its toys, now which ones will you play with? It is these small game design decisions that prioritize the feel of Sifu and add up to make an engaging, moment-to-moment fighting game system. Its linear level design, coupled with the evolving flow of any given fight, makes Sifu a joy to play, a reliable, locomotive engine of a video game. Not once did I think the game was bloated or padded, nor did I believe the game was unfair in its difficulty. Do I think the game is difficult? Yes, like most fighting games. Is it unfair? No, because the game showed its hand in the very first level. When I first finished that level, I had died more than a handful of times, and by the time I got to the second boss, I was an old man, literally. This is not because the game was unfairly screwing with me, but because I was bad. I knew that Sifu was sending me a message, signposting itself to me. You're not getting a free pass, punk. Expect a challenging path ahead. Not everyone understood this message. Upon release, unfair criticism washed over the game. Like sewer gunk, it clung onto the sentiment that the game was too hard. These people saying these things were clearly button mashing, or wanted a breezy game that plays itself. They looked at Sifu only on a surface level, a self-imposed expectation of an easy-to-consume experience. This is a clear signal that these specific video game enjoyers have never fully appreciated any fighting game in their life, and did not understand what Sifu was going for. These differences in game expectation and game taste expressed in game reviews compounded into online discourse discrediting the game. Feeling the mounting pressure produced from this discourse, Sifu's developer Slowclap issued patches to circumvent these quote-unquote issues, patching in measures to fix something that did not need fixing. We will touch on this later. On a side note, what we are seeing with the current state of popular action games and the consumption of such things, you are often made to feel like a superhero. Sometimes you are one, an overpowered playable character who can do no wrong, the unstoppable force. This is who you are piloting. The ultimate power fantasy. What people got wrong about Sifu is that they had a preconceived expectation that the game would be like the other games. Instead, Sifu provides dichotomy to this. You are not invincible in Sifu, and even when you get the hang of the game, you never truly feel like you are. Outnumbered around every corner, strong enemies that don't pull their punches, and the big bad five who only want to destroy you and your memory from this world to save their own skin. You are constantly pressured to perform, moment to moment, at your best. If not, the surrounding enemies will capitalize without hesitation and make mincemeat out of you. By design, you are expected to lose. When the inevitable happens, you grow older, a constant reminder of your mortal coil and the inescapable, relentless marching of time. Let's talk about the continuation system. When you are defeated, you get the opportunity to invest your earned experience points to unlock extra skills. Then you resurrect slightly older, ready to fight again. But don't fail too many times, because you might end up at the retirement home. Game over. Try again. As you grow older, like middle age old, skills start to become gated off, meaning you cannot allocate experience points or unlock those skills. To counter this, you can choose to dedicate your experience points to permanently unlock a desired skill. This incentivizes players to retry stages, to do better than your last attempt in the previous timeline. You'll want to do this anyway, because as you go through levels, you will find collectible clues scattered around, highlighting key details about the Big Bad Five. Did I mention that this is also a detective game? Clues that you find in one level can be used in another to unlock areas that were once inaccessible in your first run. Some of them even unlock shortcuts to bypass huge portions of the level, making subsequent run-throughs faster. I actually love replayability. It scratches my old brain so good. Now, the novelty of growing old after each knockout is interesting, but the implementation of this feature is initially confusing to grasp. For instance, if you decide to retry a previous level as a younger version, what skills will carry over? How exactly does the permanent unlocks work? Do I even need the unlocks? Eventually you will piece together how this all works after enough time with the game. However, the initial teaching of this mechanic could have been better explained in earlier parts of the game. This misunderstanding also played a part in the outcries of some players claiming the game was too difficult. How do we know this? Slowclap later introduced an easy and hard mode. For clarity, I completed the game on all difficulties for the sake of this review. Easy mode was boring, and hard mode was like playing from square one. We can look at the first statement of GameSpot's patch preview video. Struggling with Sifu? Here's easy mode! Feeding into the narrative that the initial difficulty was a problem in Sifu's design. However, the initial difficulty felt confident, made with purpose. The problem with easy mode is you can mash your way through more of the game, circumvent a key game mechanic, only to then struggle later on because you still don't have the baseline skill to beat the game. It messes up parts of the game and simultaneously disregards the figurative stop signs in the game's original design. You're meant to have a bad time early on. Game overs are inevitable. The game is humbling you by design, telling you to try harder purposefully. While I understand the grievances of these players, the root issue was not resolved. It is in communication, communicating to the player the key mechanics. I understood the core message of the game, but maybe the message could have been reformatted into something more readable. This is what needed to change, not the game itself. A positive change in the patches was the addition of a training mode, offering the ability to envision enemies while training on the wooden dummy. It allows you to train against problematic enemies and helps with practicing attack patterns, honing your overall game skill. This is good. really good. I used this a lot during my first playthrough of the game and made me feel more comfortable with the mechanics. Using parries and dodges felt more meaningful. It also made sense contextually in the game world, since the main character has been training for years to get to this point. So a cheeky training session before venturing off to fight some bad guys makes sense. I do have a few gripes with this. Implementing enemy variety would have been nice because in levels, you fight a variety of different enemies. So why not replicate that scenario in training mode? While I like the red backdrop, aesthetically akin to Snake and the Eagle's shadow, very dreamlike and nebulous, it did grate on me after a while. Maybe put in a little stage select? Let me practice in a room that's already in the game. For instance, the club dance floor. These points I'm bringing up should only be read as nitpicks about the training mode. Overall, great inclusion. I think this is a good time to start talking about
Sifu, my arms are yours.
You are the outsider. This is the boss's home. You are just the rival sports team playing their away game. We are the intruder, and we are treated as such. The mounting pressure boils over into the boss fight. The introduction feeds you a nice appetizer. The stakes are high. You say hello with your worn knuckles. Maybe you get knocked around a bit. Patterns start to emerge. Time is on your side. You start putting the puzzle pieces together. You get solid hits in. Maybe this isn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. Their structure is almost full. The end is here.
You're almost as good as Yang. I thought he was unchallenged at that old bastard's.
A second phase. You cannot ignore how high the stakes are. This is the serious phase. The boss was just playing with their food in the first phase. Now they are hungry. Hands start to sweat. Even though you managed to beat the boss a few moments ago, the boss reminds you that they dictate the pace of the duel. The change in the boss's behaviour and the change in the arena environment are reflected back to us. Pressurizing. You start to make mistakes. It's getting to you. The boss smells blood. Calmness is the way forward. Focus and you will overcome. These moments are the crown jewels of Sifu. Compelling cinematic flair and gameplay are married to represent the height of the challenge, and, to put it simply, makes the fight hype and nerve-wracking. It is the test to see whether or not your past experience and training was good enough. You eventually reach the end. The big bad five are gone. Mission accomplished. Game finished. Overjoyed. A tough game bested by perseverance and some slick skill. Celebrations, pumping fists, like a good boy, too busy celebrating to realise that this is not the true path. A sinking feeling washes over me. Something is off. The game restarts. I am celebrating. No longer. I did not realise that I was playing Ghosts and Goblins. For a split second, I felt a deep sadness. Surely this isn't the end. Surely this isn't the only ending. Only ending? Wait. Yes. Yes! Yes! Let's play more Sifu! What makes Sifu great is its high replayability. The trophy list complements this design, making it a greatly paced, completionist experience. On your first playthrough, you will earn a good chunk of the trophies naturally through story, combat, and skill progression. There are trophies for getting every collectible in every level. If you've been picking up collectibles along the way, cleaning up the last few isn't taxing. There are some miscellaneous trophies that might need more time than others. For instance, Kill Nil, Kung Fu Tussle, and the 36th Chamber of Kung Fu. Depending on how your playthroughs went, you might have already earned them. If not, you can revisit levels and specifically go for those trophies. This is the best time to mention that the added arena mode holds trophies. The mode is a set of challenges in fixed arenas with different modifiers to keep things fresh. If you want more Sifu, arena mode is your answer. In order to achieve the Platinum Trophy, you must at minimum complete the game twice. Sifu is a relatively short game, and when you jump into your next playthrough, you should feel way more comfortable with the game's mechanics. In your next playthrough, you must achieve Wu De. To do this, you must spare every boss in the game. In order to spare bosses, you must fill their structure meter and not knock them out during the second phase. The next time you fill it in that instance, the game will give you the option to spare them. The key to doing this consistently without accidentally depleting their health completely is through parrying. This allows you to chip away at their structure meter without dealing damage. It is the way of Wu De. The second playthrough gives you a great opportunity to clean up all the other trophies you had missed while playing to the overall goal of Wu De. During this process, I unearthed some key details about the world and the Big Bad Five through its collectibles. The emphasis and implementation of the collectible trophies guided me to see everything that Sifu was offering, adding to the better appreciation of Sifu as a whole game experience. The last trophy I want to discuss is the challenge run. You must beat the game while being 25 years old or less. You can technically do this on your first or Wu De playthrough, but I chose to dedicate a whole playthrough to this one challenge. I was having too much fun, so I didn't want to rush getting the platinum. I wanted the gaming sleepover to last forever. This one trophy epitomizes the challenge of Sifu. You need to implement everything you have learned to have a chance at achieving this. Since you start at 20 years old, you cannot afford to die a lot. Your best strategy is to not die until the final level, so at least you could die a couple of times in the final fight. Nevertheless, this is one tricky challenge. Vengeance, failure, growth, resilience. Sifu asks you to beat the odds, mastering the art of the fight to achieve what must be done. Sifu allows you to contemplate your own role in this story and rise above selfish impulses, to act not through vengeance, but closure. It will personally frustrate you, a frustration that pains you, knowing you really want to beat Sifu, but can't. You fail. Constantly. Then it clicks. A measured mentality and an inquisitive approach is needed to overcome this challenge. You grow as you play and build a resilience to the negative forces clouding your mind. This is Sifu, a game that will have a lasting impact, a beloved and influential game for years to come. Strong recommendation.